The rain had been falling steadily all evening, that soft October drizzle that turns Portland streets into mirrors of amber streetlights. I was curled up in my reading chair by the fireplace, lost in an Agatha Christie novel, The Pale Horse, if I remember correctly, when I heard the knock at the door. I wasn't expecting anyone. Sunday evenings were my time. At 67, after teaching elementary school for 35 years and losing my husband Robert 2 years ago to cancer, I'd learned to treasure solitude. Not loneliness solitude. There's a difference. The knock came again, more insistent. I set down my book and walked to the front door, my knees creaking slightly. Through the peephole, I saw 3 familiar figures huddled under the porch light, my son Matthew, his wife Grace, and their 8-year-old daughter Rachel. My heart did that little jump. It always does when I see family unexpectedly. I opened the door. "Mom," Matthew said, his smile just a bit too wide. "Sorry we didn't call ahead." "We were in the neighborhood," Grace added smoothly, holding up a canvas shopping bag. "I made your favorite chamomile tea and homemade biscotti. Thought we'd surprise you." There was something in her voice, something practiced, but I pushed the thought away. Come in, you're all soaking wet." I stepped aside, ushering them into the warmth of my living room. Rachel was the last to enter. Normally she'd run to me, arms outstretched, chattering about school or her latest drawing. But tonight she walked slowly, clutching a stuffed rabbit to her chest, her eyes unusually serious. "Hi, Grandma," she said quietly. "Hi, sweetheart." I bent down to kiss her forehead. Her hair was damp from the rain. "Are you okay?" She nodded, but didn't meet my eyes. Grace was already taking off her coat, looking around my living room with that assessing gaze she sometimes had, like she was cataloging things. I'd noticed it before, but never really thought about it. "Your house always looks so cozy, Amanda," she said. "Though I worry about you managing these stairs at your age. Have you thought about downsizing?" "I manage just fine," I said more sharply than I intended. Matthew shot Grace a look. "Mom's in great shape, honey. Let's not—" "I'm just concerned," Grace interrupted smoothly. "You know how much we care about you." She headed toward my kitchen without waiting for an invitation, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. Matthew followed, glancing back at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Apologetic, anxious. Rachel stayed by my side, unusually quiet. In the kitchen, Grace had already taken over. She'd brought her own teapot, a beautiful ceramic one with hand-painted flowers, and was filling it with water from my tap. "I know you have tea here, but I made a special blend," she explained. "Chamomile with a touch of lavender and honey. Very soothing." She moved through my kitchen like she owned it, opening cabinets, finding cups, arranging everything just so on a serving tray. Matthew stood near the doorway, checking his phone repeatedly. "Everything okay, honey?" I asked him. He looked up, startled. "What? Oh yeah, just work stuff. On a Sunday night? You know how it is." He pocketed his phone quickly. I watched Grace pour tea into delicate china cups. She filled 4 cups, then paused at the 5th. "Rachel, do you want tea or milk?" she asked. "Milk," Rachel said softly. "Good girl." Grace poured milk into a small glass for Rachel, then carried the tray to the dining table. "Come, everyone, let's sit." We gathered around my grandmother's oak dining table, the one Robert and I had refinished together years ago. Grace placed a steaming cup in front of me. "This one's yours," she said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "I made it extra strong, just how you like it." I looked down at the cup. Steam curled upward, carrying the sweet scent of chamomile and honey. Normal, innocent, but something felt wrong. Maybe it was the way Grace watched me, her gaze too intense. Maybe it was Matthew's nervous energy, his hand tapping against his thigh. Maybe it was Rachel's unusual silence. Or maybe it was the fact that they'd never just stopped by before. Grace was a planner. Everything had to be scheduled, organized, controlled. "You've been looking tired lately, Amanda," Grace said, her voice honey smooth. "Are you sleeping well?" "I sleep fine." "Do you?" She tilted her head. "Matthew mentioned you sounded confused on the phone last week." I frowned. "I wasn't confused. It's okay to admit when things get difficult," Grace continued. "Living alone at your age, it's a lot. What if something happened? What if you fell? Who would know?" Matthew shifted uncomfortably. "Grace, we talked about this. We're just worried about you, Mom," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. I looked at my son, really looked at him. When had he become so thin, So exhausted looking, there were shadows under his eyes and his hands trembled slightly as he lifted his water glass. "I appreciate your concern," I said carefully, "but I'm perfectly fine managing my own life." Grace's smile tightened. "Of course you are. I didn't mean to suggest otherwise." She gestured to my teacup. "Your tea's getting cold." I reached for the cup. That's when Rachel moved. Her small hand shot out, gripping my wrist with surprising strength for an 8-year-old. "Grandma," she whispered, leaning close to my ear. Her voice was barely audible, almost lost under the sound of rain pattering against the windows. "Don't drink it." I froze. "What, sweetheart?" Her eyes were wide, frightened. "I heard them. Last night. Mommy said the tea will make you sleep forever." Time seemed to slow down. My hand, still holding the cup handle, began to shake. Sleep forever. The words echoed in my mind, too terrible to process. Surely Rachel had misunderstood. Surely this was a child's imagination, some nightmare she'd had. But the fear in her eyes was real. "Rachel, what are you whispering?" Grace's voice cut through the moment, sharp as a knife. Rachel jerked back her hand, falling from my wrist. "Nothing, Mommy. Just telling Grandma I love her." Grace's eyes narrowed slightly. "That's sweet, honey." Her voice softened, but there was steel underneath. "Why don't you go watch TV in the living room? The adults need to talk." "But I want to stay with Grandma." "Now, Rachel." The little girl's face crumpled. She clutched her rabbit tighter and scurried out of the dining room. I heard the TV click on a moment later, the volume turned up too loud. Grace turned back to me, that perfect smile in place. "Sorry about that. She's been so clingy lately." I stared at the teacup in my hand. Steam still rose from it, innocent and deadly all at once. Poisoned. My granddaughter just told me my tea was poisoned. I looked at Grace, at Matthew. They sat there smiling, waiting for me to drink. My own son, my daughter-in-law, sitting in my home serving me poisoned tea. It couldn't be real. It was absurd. Impossible. But Rachel's whisper, "The tea will make you sleep forever," echoed in my ears. I made a decision. "Matthew," I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart, "you always made the best chamomile when you were younger. Remember you'd make tea for me when I was sick." He blinked. Yeah, I remember." "Why don't you try this batch?" I slid the cup across the table toward him. "Tell me if Grace got the recipe right." The room went silent. Matthew stared at the cup like it was a coiled snake. His face drained of color. "Oh, I'm not really thirsty, Mom." "I insist," I said pleasantly. "Just one sip." Grace laughed, but it sounded forced. "Amanda, don't be silly. That's your tea. It'll be cold if you wait much longer." "I'm sure Matthew doesn't mind hot or cold," I said, still smiling, still watching my son's face. "Go ahead, honey. Just one sip." Matthew's hand reached out, trembling. His fingers closed around the cup handle. Beads of sweat formed on his forehead despite the cool evening. He lifted the cup to his lips. Time stretched impossibly thin. I watched him, my son, my only child, the boy I'd rocked to sleep and nursed through fevers and taught to ride a bicycle. The cup touched his lips, and then he lowered it. "You're right," he said, his voice cracking slightly. "Too hot. I'll wait a minute." He set the cup down untouched. In that moment I knew. Rachel hadn't misunderstood. This wasn't a nightmare or a child's overactive imagination. My son and his wife had just tried to poison me. They left half an hour later. Grace kept pushing the tea toward me, but I claimed a sudden stomach ache. She offered to stay and take care of me. I insisted I just needed rest. As I walked them to the door, Rachel turned and hugged me fiercely. "I love you, Grandma," she whispered. "I love you too, sweetheart. So much." Over her head, I saw Grace watching us, her expression unreadable. After they drove away, I stood at my front window, watching their taillights disappear into the rainy night. Then I locked my door, double-checked it, put on the chain. My hands were shaking. I looked at the dining table. The teacup sat there still half full, cooling. Evidence. Moving carefully as if handling a bomb, I poured the tea into a small glass jar, sealed it tight, and put it in the back of my refrigerator. Then I placed the teacup in a Ziploc bag. Fingerprints. My mind raced. What to do? Call the police and say what my family tried to poison me. Based on my 8-year-old granddaughter's whisper, I needed proof. Real proof. I went to my study, Robert's old office, and started searching through my filing cabinet. Bills, medical records, old tax returns. Everything seemed normal until I reached the bottom drawer. There, filed under Insurance Miss C, I found a document I didn't remember seeing before. Life insurance policy. Premium Life Coverage, Inc. Policy number 847392B. Insured Amanda Porter. Coverage amount $750,000. Beneficiary Matthew Porter. Date of policy July 15, 2024, 3 months ago. I stared at the signature line. Amanda Porter in flowing cursive. It looked like my signature. But I had no memory of signing this. I flipped through more pages. There was a healthcare proxy document giving Grace decision-making authority if I became medically incapacitated, another signature I didn't remember making, and a draft power of attorney document unsigned that would give Matthew complete control over my finances. 3 months ago, Grace had come over with a stack of papers. Just routine healthcare paperwork, she'd said, in case of emergencies, advance directives, that sort of thing. I'd trusted her. I'd signed without reading carefully. "You're so thoughtful," I'd said. "Thank you for thinking ahead." She'd smiled. "Of course, family takes care of family." Now those words felt like poison themselves. I sat in Robert's chair holding the insurance documents with trembling hands. $750,000 for my death. I couldn't sleep that night. At 2 a.m, I found myself at my computer Google search page glowing in the darkness. I typed Grace Porter, Portland, Oregon. Her professional Facebook page came up. Smiling photos. Loving wife and mother. Interior design consultant. Everything looked normal. I tried Grace Williams Portland, her maiden name according to our wedding album, more normal results. LinkedIn. A few old college photos. Then I remembered Grace had mentioned once casually that she'd been briefly married in her 20s before meeting Matthew. Just a youthful mistake she never talked about. What was her ex-husband's name? She'd said it once. Sullivan number Grant. David Grant. I searched Grace Grant Portland. Nothing. Grace Grant Seattle. The third result made my heart stop. Seattle Times, March 16, 2019. Woman arrested in elder fraud scheme. I clicked with shaking fingers. Melissa Grant, 35, was arrested yesterday on charges of elder financial abuse. Grant allegedly manipulated her then-husband, David Sullivan, into helping her steal $200,000 from his mother, Patricia Sullivan, 71. According to court documents, Grant isolated Mrs. Sullivan from friends convinced David his mother had dementia and forged her signature on financial documents. The scheme was discovered when Mrs. Sullivan's daughter became suspicious and hired a private investigator. Grant was released on bail. The case was later dismissed in May 2019 due to insufficient evidence when David Sullivan refused to testify. There was a grainy photo. The woman's face was partially obscured, but I could see her profile. The nose, the jawline. I pulled up Grace's Facebook on another window. Side by side I compared them. The same person. Grace Porter was Melissa Grant. My daughter-in-law had done this before. To another mother. In another city. And Patricia Sullivan. My hands trembled as I searched Patricia Sullivan's Seattle obituary. Patricia Ann Sullivan, 71, passed away peacefully on November 8, 2019, 6 months after the charges were dropped. Peacefully. I kept reading. Survived by daughter Jennifer Walsh and son David Sullivan. I searched for more. Found another article from 2015 Nevada this time. A woman named Lisa Brennan, married to Michael Brennan. His elderly mother had died in a house fire. $500,000 insurance payout. Lisa Brennan had disappeared shortly after. I found a photo from the news coverage. Younger, different hair color, but the same eyes, the same calculating smile. Grace had done this at least twice before, maybe 3 times. And now she was here, in my house, married to my son, coming for me. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that teacup, heard Rachel's terrified whisper, saw Matthew's trembling hand refusing to drink. By sunrise Monday morning, I'd made my decision. I wasn't going to die, and I wasn't going to let Grace destroy anyone else. At 8:47 a.m., I was sitting in the waiting room of Thornton & Associates elder law attorneys. The receptionist had squeezed me in as an emergency appointment. "Mrs. Porter." A man in his late 50s emerged from an inner office. Silver hair, kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, the sort of face that inspired trust. "I'm James Thornton. Please come in." His office was lined with law books and family photos. On his desk sat a framed picture of an elderly woman with a sweet smile. "My mother," he said, noticing my gaze. "She passed 3 years ago. Elder fraud case. That's why I specialized in this field." He sat down across from me. "Now what brings you here today?" I slid the insurance policy across his mahogany desk. "I didn't sign this." He picked it up, examined it carefully, pulled out a magnifying glass from his drawer. For a long minute he said nothing. Then he looked up at me, his expression grave. "You're right. This signature has been digitally copied. Someone scanned your signature from another document and pasted it here. See this pixelation around the edges?" He pointed. "This is fraud, Mrs. Porter. Serious fraud. It gets worse." I handed him the printed articles about Melissa Grant, about Lisa Brennan. "My daughter-in-law is the same woman." James read slowly, his frown deepening with each paragraph. When he finished, he leaned back in his chair and removed his glasses, rubbing the bridge of his nose. "Mrs. Porter, Amanda, may I call you Amanda?" I nodded. "Amanda, you're in serious danger. If this woman has killed before, and it certainly looks like she has, you need police protection immediately." "No." The word came out sharper than I intended. "Not yet. If we go to the police now with just circumstantial evidence, she'll run. She's done it before. Seattle, Nevada. She disappears and finds a new target." "Then what do you propose?" I met his eyes. "I need to catch her, record her, get proof so solid that she can't run, can't talk her way out, can't hurt anyone else ever again." James studied me for a long moment. "That's dangerous. Living in my house with a woman who wants me dead is dangerous. At least this way I'm fighting back." A slow smile crossed his face. "You remind me of my mother. She was a fighter too." He picked up his phone. "I'm going to call someone, a colleague who specializes in cases like this." Victoria Hayes arrived 40 minutes later. She was in her mid-40s athletic build, short dark hair with streaks of gray she hadn't bothered to dye. She wore jeans and a leather jacket, and when she shook my hand, her grip was firm and sure. "Victoria Hayes," she said, "private investigator. Former FBI specialized in financial crimes and elder abuse." We moved to James's conference room. Victoria set a digital recorder on the table. "Tell me everything," she said. "Start from the beginning. Don't leave anything out." So I did. The unexpected visit, Rachel's warning, the tea, Matthew's refusal to drink it, the insurance policy, Grace's previous identities, all of it. Victoria took notes on a yellow legal pad, her pen moving fast. When I finished, she looked up at me. "My mother," she said quietly, "was scammed by her caretaker 7 years ago. The woman convinced my mother that I was trying to steal her money turned her against me. By the time I figured it out, Mom had lost everything. Her house, her savings, her dignity. She died in a state nursing facility, broken alone." Her jaw tightened. "I quit the FBI to stop people like your daughter-in-law. Can you help me?" "Yes, but you need to understand what we're doing here. We're setting a trap and you're the bait. Are you prepared for that?" I thought of Robert, of the life we'd built, of Rachel's frightened eyes, of the 2 women Grace had already killed. "Yes," Victoria nodded. "All right, here's how this works. First, we verify everything, confirm Grace is actually Melissa Grant and Lisa Brennan. We'll do that through fingerprints, if possible, cross-reference photos, maybe DNA. Second, we install surveillance equipment in your home. Third, we create a situation that forces Grace to act. And fourth, we document everything so thoroughly that no court in the country would let her walk free." "How long will this take?" "A week, maybe less if we move fast." She flipped to a new page. "We need to move carefully but quickly. If Grace suspects you know something, she might accelerate her timeline, or worse, hurt you before we're ready." The thought made my stomach clench, but I kept my voice steady. "What do I need to do?" "Act normal. Don't let her know anything's changed. Can you do that?" I thought about all those years teaching elementary school. All the times I'd smiled through parent-teacher conferences with difficult parents, maintained composure when budgets were cut, kept calm during active shooter drills. I can do that. Tuesday morning, while Matthew and Grace were at work, Victoria's team descended on my house like a silent army. They were professionals, quiet, efficient. In 3 hours, they'd transformed my home into a surveillance fortress. Hidden cameras here, here, and here, Victoria explained, pointing to what looked like innocent smoke detectors, picture frames, even a decorative plant in the kitchen. We've got 4 angles in the kitchen alone. That's where the poison attempt will likely happen. 3 in the living room, 2 in your bedroom, and a doorbell camera that uploads directly to cloud storage. She showed me her laptop screen. Split images showed every corner of my first floor in crystal clear high definition. Audio devices, I asked. Under the dining table, voice-activated recorder in this pen. She handed me what looked like an ordinary ballpoint pen. Keep it in your pocket when they visit. It'll pick up conversations up to 20 feet away. A young technician named David approached. Mrs. Porter, we also need to test that tea sample you saved. I retrieved the glass jar from my refrigerator. David handled it with gloved hands, sealing it in an evidence bag. We'll have results by tomorrow morning, Victoria said. If there's poison in there, we'll know exactly what kind and in what dosage. That'll be crucial evidence. After they left, I walked through my house. It looked exactly the same, my grandmother's quilt on the couch, Robert's reading glasses still on the side table, Rachel's crayon drawing on the refrigerator. But now it was different. Now it was a trap. Now I was hunting. Wednesday afternoon, Victoria called. Amanda, you need to sit down for this. I was already sitting in my kitchen, but I gripped the phone tighter. What did you find? The tea was lethal. We found zolpidem, that's the active ingredient in Ambien, at 300 milligrams. That's 30 times the normal dose. Enough to render you unconscious within minutes. She paused. There was also digoxin, a heart medication. 2 milligrams. For someone your age, that would likely cause cardiac arrest. My hand went to my chest, feeling my heartbeat. Still there. Still alive. Because Rachel had warned me. It was designed to look natural, Victoria continued. You'd fall asleep, go into cardiac arrest, and by morning they'd find you peacefully dead in your chair. Heart attack in your sleep. No autopsy would catch it unless they were specifically looking for those drugs. She's done this before. I know. And Amanda, I'm flying to Seattle tomorrow. I need to talk to Patricia Sullivan's daughter. We need to establish a pattern, get testimony about Grace's previous attempts. Are you comfortable being alone while I'm gone? I'll be fine. I'm not drinking anything I don't prepare myself. Good. And Amanda, I need you to do something. Call Matthew. Tell him you want to have dinner Sunday. Tell him you've been thinking about what Grace said about assisted living, about your estate planning. You want me to bait the trap. Exactly. We need to give Grace a reason to act quickly while we're watching. Can you do that? I looked at the calendar on my refrigerator. Today was Wednesday. Sunday was 4 days away. I can do that? I made the call that evening at 7 o'clock. My hand shook as I dialed Matthew's number, but my voice was steady. Mom, he sounded surprised. Is everything okay? Everything's fine, honey. I was just thinking about Sunday, about what Grace said. Can you two come for dinner? I want to discuss something important. A pause. What kind of something? My estate, my future. I've been thinking about assisted living like Grace suggested, and about my will. I'd like your input. Another pause, longer this time. I could almost hear him thinking. That's a big decision, Mom. You don't have to rush. I'm not rushing. I'm planning ahead, while I still have my wits about me. I forced a laugh. I met with my financial advisor yesterday. There's a lovely facility in Lake Oswego I'm touring next week. I thought we could talk about it over dinner Sunday. Let me check with Grace. Can I call you back? Of course, sweetheart. 23 minutes later, my phone rang. Mom, Sunday works. Grace said she'll cook. She doesn't want you to tire yourself out. Of course she did. Grace wanted control of the food, control of the poison. That's thoughtful of her, I said, and meant it in the darkest possible way. Are you sure you're okay, Mom? You sound different. For a moment, I heard the boy he used to be, the child who would crawl into bed with me during thunderstorms, who brought me dandelions from the backyard, who cried when his goldfish died. What had happened to that boy? When did he become someone who could watch his mother drink poison? I'm fine, honey. Just tired. I love you. I love you too, Mom. After I hung up, I sat in the dark for a long time, wondering if that was true anymore, if love could survive what was coming. Thursday evening, Victoria called from Seattle. I met with Jennifer Walsh, Patricia Sullivan's daughter. Amanda, you need to hear this. I put the phone on speaker, my hands free to grip the kitchen counter. Jennifer confirmed everything. Melissa Grace married her brother David in 2018. Within 6 months, she'd completely isolated their mother, convinced David that Patricia was losing her mind getting dementia, started forging signatures on checks on bank transfers. How did they catch her? Jennifer got suspicious when her mother stopped returning calls. She hired a private investigator who discovered the fraud. They pressed charges, but Victoria's voice hardened. David refused to testify against Melissa. The case fell apart. Melissa was released. Why wouldn't he testify against her? That's the interesting part. Jennifer thinks Melissa had something on David, some kind of leverage that kept him quiet. 6 months after the charges were dropped, Patricia died from an accidental overdose of heart medication. The same medication Grace tried to use on you. My blood ran cold. And David moved to Boston, remarried, won't talk about it. Jennifer says he's terrified of Melissa. Even now, years later, he won't say her name. I thought about Matthew, about his trembling hands, his exhausted face, his nervous energy. Victoria, what if Grace has something on Matthew too? What if she's blackmailing him? I thought the same thing, so I ran a deep background check. Papers rustled on her end. In 2019, Matthew was fired from Wellspring Pharmaceuticals for inventory discrepancies. Prescription medications went missing. No charges were filed, but the company suspected theft. Matthew wouldn't. Amanda, when did he meet Grace? I thought back. Early 2020, January, I think, at some kind of support group for people dealing with job loss. 6 months after he was fired. 6 months after losing his job in disgrace. He was vulnerable, probably desperate, definitely scared about his future. And Grace found him. The pieces clicked into place like a terrible puzzle. She finds broken men, I whispered. Men who are weak, who have secrets, who can be controlled. Exactly. And then she uses them to get to their mothers. David Sullivan's mother. Michael Brennan's mother in Nevada. And now you. Matthew isn't evil. He's trapped. Maybe, but he's still dangerous, Amanda. A trapped animal will do anything to survive. Friday afternoon, I was reading on my porch when a small figure appeared on a bicycle. Rachel. She looked around nervously before coming up my walkway, her bike clattering to the ground in her haste. Grandma? She threw herself into my arms. I held her tight, this brave little girl who'd saved my life. Does your mother know you're here? She shook her head. I told her I was going to Emma's house, but I had to see you. I had to tell you. Tell me what, sweetheart? I heard them again, last night. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Mommy was yelling at Daddy. She said Sunday is the last chance. If you screw this up, I'll send the evidence to the police. You'll go to prison and never see Rachel again. So I was right. Grace was blackmailing Matthew. What did your daddy say? Rachel's eyes filled with tears. He was crying, Grandma. He said I never wanted to hurt anyone. I just wanted to protect my family. And Mommy laughed. She laughed and said, too late for that. I pulled Rachel close, feeling her small body shake with sobs. My son was a victim too, but he was also going to help kill me to save himself. Grandma, Rachel whispered, is Daddy going to jail? How do you answer that question? How do you tell a child that her father is both victim and villain? I don't know, baby, but I promise you this, no matter what happens, you'll always have me. Always. Do you understand? She nodded against my shoulder. Now you need to go home before your mother gets suspicious. Can you be brave a little longer? Yes, she pulled back, wiping her eyes. Grandma, what are you going to do? I smoothed her hair back from her face. I'm going to stop your mother, and I'm going to protect you. That's a promise. Saturday was the longest day of my life. Victoria came by for a final briefing. We sat at my kitchen table going over the plan one more time. Tomorrow they'll arrive around 5:30. Grace will insist on cooking. At some point she'll poison your food or drink. We need to catch that on camera. Once we have visual evidence of her adding poison, I'll signal Detective Sarah Kim, who'll be in an unmarked car 2 blocks away. Backup units will be 3 minutes out. Where will you be? In your guest room upstairs. I'll be monitoring all the cameras on my laptop. The moment Grace makes her move, I'll see it. But Amanda, she leaned forward, her expression serious. We need her to actually attempt the poisoning. We can't stop her too early or she'll claim she changed her mind that nothing happened. We need clear, undeniable evidence. You're saying I might have to pretend to drink poison. We'll swap it before it touches your lips. I promise. But yes, you need to play along until the last possible moment. James called on speakerphone. Amanda, you can still back out. We can go to the police right now with what we have. She'll run. She's done it before. Better that than you getting hurt. This ends tomorrow, James, one way or another. After they left, I updated my will, left everything to Rachel in a trust with Ruth as executor. Matthew would get nothing if he was convicted of any crime. I wrote a letter to Rachel, sealed it, and left it with James's office. Just in case, I called Ruth, my best friend since college. Amanda, what's going on? You're scaring me. If something happens to me, nothing's going to happen. If it does, make sure Rachel is taken care of. Don't let her go to foster care. Promise me, Ruth. I promise. But please tell me what's happening. I can't. Not yet. I love you. That evening, I walked through my house, touched Robert's photo on the mantel, looked at Matthew's baby pictures, that gap-toothed smile, those innocent eyes, studied Rachel's crayon drawing of our family, 4 stick figures holding hands under a smiling sun. Tomorrow, I would either save what was left of my family or die trying. Either way, Grace would never hurt another mother, never destroy another son, never orphan another grandchild. I slept with my bedroom door locked and a chair wedged under the handle. Sunday was coming. Sunday arrived with cruel beauty, clear October sky, golden leaves falling gently in the afternoon breeze. The kind of day that should have been peaceful. I spent the morning preparing. Not food, Grace would handle that. But myself. I showered, dressed in a soft blue cardigan Robert had loved, the one he said made my eyes brighter. Put on the pearl earrings he'd given me for our 30th anniversary. If this was going to be my last day, I wanted to look like myself. Not a victim, not prey. At 3 o'clock, Victoria arrived through the back door. How are you holding up? She asked. Terrified, I admitted, but ready. She pulled out her laptop, showing me the camera feeds. Every angle of my kitchen, dining room, living room displayed in perfect clarity. Detective Kim is in position 2 blocks away. I've briefed her fully. The moment Grace makes her move, I signal and they move in. 3 minutes maximum. She squeezed my shoulder. You're not alone in this, Amanda. Where will you be? Guest room upstairs. Door cracked so I can hear but out of sight. They can't know I'm here. She handed me the pen recorder. Keep this in your cardigan pocket. And Amanda, if at any point you feel unsafe, if anything goes wrong, you say the code word. What did we decide? Robert? Right. You say Robert would have loved this, and I come down immediately, police or no police. Your safety comes first. Understood. I nodded. At 5:15, Victoria disappeared upstairs. I heard the guest room door close softly. I was alone. At 5:33, I heard a car in the driveway. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was it. I opened the door before they could knock. Matthew stood there with 2 grocery bags. Behind him, Grace held Rachel's hand, looking perfect as always. Cream cashmere sweater, designer jeans, that smile that never reached her eyes. Mom, Matthew's smile seemed forced. Hope we're not too early. Right on time. I kissed his cheek. He smelled like cologne and fear sweat. Grace swept past me into the house. I've got everything we need for a wonderful dinner. Why don't you relax in the living room while I get started? Can I help? Absolutely not. You're the guest of honor tonight. She was already unpacking groceries in my kitchen. Matthew set the table, would you? Rachel stood in the doorway, clutching her stuffed rabbit eyes wide and worried. I knelt down. Want to help Grandma pick flowers from the garden for the table? She nodded eagerly. Outside, away from adult ears, she whispered, Grandma, I'm scared. Me too, sweetheart. But remember what I told you. We're brave together. Are the police coming, smart girl? Too smart for 8 years old. Yes, but not yet. I need you to do something very important. Stay in the living room and watch TV. Don't come into the kitchen or dining room no matter what you hear. Can you do that? What if Mommy hurts you? I cupped her face in my hands. She won't. I promise. But I need you safe. Okay? She nodded, but her eyes filled with tears. We picked roses from my garden, Robert's roses, the ones he'd planted the year before he died. Red as blood, beautiful as hope. In the kitchen, Grace had taken complete control. She moved through my space like she owned it, chopping vegetables, seasoning chicken, humming softly to herself. "I'm making your favorite," she said without looking at me. "Roast chicken, garlic, mashed potatoes, green beans, comfort food." "Sounds wonderful." "And of course, chamomile tea for dessert. I brought a fresh batch." She gestured to the ceramic teapot on the counter, the same one from last Sunday. My stomach clenched, but I kept my voice light. "You're so thoughtful, Grace." Matthew appeared in the doorway. "Table's set, Mom. Can I get you something to drink? Wine?" "Just water, honey. Thank you." He poured me a glass from the filtered pitcher, hands shaking slightly. When he handed it to me, our eyes met. In that moment, I saw the boy he used to be, the one who would never hurt anyone, and the broken man he'd become, the one who would. "Mom, about what you said on the phone. Assisted living. You're really considering it." "I am. I've given it a lot of thought. This house is too big for me now. Too many memories. Too many stairs. Maybe it's time for a fresh start." Grace's knife paused mid-chop. "That's very wise, Amanda. Very mature. And your estate, have you made any decisions?" "I have." I sat at the kitchen table watching her carefully. "I'm planning to sell the house, put most of the money in a trust for Rachel's education. There's that assisted living facility in Lake Oswego, very nice, all-inclusive. The rest will cover that." The knife resumed chopping, but faster now. Harder. "What about Matthew?" Grace asked, her voice light but with an edge underneath. "Don't you think he should be consulted on these decisions?" "Of course. That's why I invited you both tonight, to discuss it as a family." Matthew shifted uncomfortably. "Mom, you don't have to rush into anything." "I'm not rushing, I'm planning." I smiled at him. "You taught me that, remember? When you helped me organize everything after your father died, you said, 'Mom, it's better to make these decisions while you're clear-headed.'" "You were right." He looked away. Grace's smile had frozen in place. "Dinner will be ready in about 30 minutes. Why don't you both relax in the living room? Matthew, pour your mother some wine." She looks tense. "I'm fine with water." "I insist. The Pinot Noir you love. It's already breathing." She was pushing, wanting me to drink something she could control. But I wasn't ready yet. Not until the cameras caught what I needed. "Actually, Grace, could you grab that bottle from the wine cellar? The 2015 vintage, it's Robert's favorite." I caught myself. It was Robert's favorite. Her eyes flickered with annoyance, but she smiled. "Of course. Where is it?" "Basement, far wall, third shelf." The moment she disappeared down the basement stairs, I saw it. Matthew moved to my teacup, already sitting on the counter, already filled with chamomile. His hand went into his jacket pocket, pulled out a small vial. I sat frozen, watching my son. He unscrewed the vial cap with trembling fingers, looked toward the basement door, looked at the teacup. "Matthew," I whispered. He jumped, nearly dropping the vial, spun around. His face was ash and tears streaming down his cheeks. "Mom, His voice broke. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." "Don't do it, honey, please. I don't have a choice." He was crying openly now. "She'll destroy me. She has evidence. The drugs I stole. She'll send me to prison. I'll lose Rachel. I'll lose everything." "So you'll kill me instead." He flinched like I'd slapped him. "It's not supposed to hurt. You'll just go to sleep. That's what she said. Just go to sleep." Like Patricia Sullivan went to sleep, like the woman in Nevada. His eyes widened. "You know about—" "I know everything. Melissa Grant, Lisa Brennan, all of Grace's names, all of her victims, and I know about your pharmaceutical theft. I know she's blackmailing you." He sank into a chair, the vial still in his hand. "Then you understand. I can't go to prison. Rachel needs me." "Rachel needs you alive and free, not as a murderer." "I'm not a murderer. What do you call poisoning your mother?" Upstairs, I heard a faint creak. Victoria listening, ready to intervene, but I needed more. I needed Grace. As if summoned footsteps echoed on the basement stairs. Matthew's head snapped up. Panicked, he shoved the vial back in his pocket and grabbed the teacup, turning away just as Grace emerged with the wine bottle. "Found it." She set it on the counter, then noticed Matthew's tears. "Honey, are you crying?" "Just talking about Dad," I said quickly. The wine. It reminded us. Grace's eyes narrowed, but she smiled. Of course. I'm sorry. Let me finish dinner and we can all toast to Robert's memory. She moved back to the stove, but I caught the look she shot Matthew, a warning. A threat. For the next 20 minutes, I watched Grace cook. Watched her plate the chicken, the potatoes, the green beans. Watched her hands move with practiced efficiency. And then I saw it. She thought I was looking at my phone, but I was watching her reflection in the kitchen window. Her hand slipped into her purse, pulled out a small bottle prescription pills. She glanced toward the living room where Rachel was watching TV, glanced at Matthew, who had his back turned, setting wine glasses on the table. Then Grace crushed 2 pills no 3 into powder between a spoon and the counter, sprinkled it over my plate of mashed potatoes specifically, stirred it in until it disappeared. My hands clenched in my lap, but I kept my face neutral, kept scrolling on my phone like I'd seen nothing. Upstairs, Victoria would have caught it on camera. Every second, every grain of poison. "Dinner's ready," Grace sang out. "Everyone to the table." We sat down like a normal family. Grace at one end, me at the other. Matthew and Rachel on either side. Grace poured wine for the adults' milk for Rachel. Then she served the plates. "Here you go, Amanda. Extra potatoes just how you like them." I looked down at my plate. The poison was invisible, stirred into creamy white potatoes that smelled like butter and garlic. My last meal. Except it wouldn't be. Grace raised her wine glass. A toast to family, to Amanda's new chapter, to fresh starts, and to letting go of the past. The last part was meant for Matthew, a reminder of what he'd lose if he didn't comply. I raised my glass. To truth and to justice. Grace's smile faltered for just a moment. Then she drank. I pretended to sip, set my glass down. "Actually, Grace, before we eat, I have a question." "Of course." I folded my hands on the table. My heart was racing, but my voice came out steady and calm. "How is Patricia Sullivan doing these days?" The room went silent. Grace's fork stopped midway to her mouth. "I'm sorry. Patricia Sullivan, Seattle, 2019. Or should I ask David Sullivan? Or maybe we should use your real name, Melissa." Matthew's face went white. "Mom, what are you?" Grace laughed. It sounded like breaking glass. "Amanda, I don't know what you're talking about. You're confused." "Am I?" I pulled out the folded newspaper article from my cardigan pocket, smoothed it on the table. "This is you, Melissa Grant, arrested for elder fraud. The victim, Patricia Sullivan, who died 6 months later from an accidental overdose." Matthew grabbed the article, read it, his hands shaking. "Grace, is this you? That's absurd. I've never been to Seattle. You were arrested there March 15th, 2019. Charges dropped in May when David Sullivan wouldn't testify. Patricia died in November. And 6 months after you killed her, you met my son. Quite a coincidence." Grace stood abruptly, her chair scraping back. "You're having an episode, Amanda. You're confused. Matthew, we should go." "Sit down, Grace. We're not done." Something in my voice made her freeze. For the first time, I saw fear flicker across her perfect face. "You see, I know about Lisa Brennan, too. Nevada, 2015. Michael Brennan's mother died in a house fire. $500,000 insurance payout. And then Lisa disappeared." I looked directly into her eyes. "How many mothers have you killed, Grace, 2-3? How many were there before you started using different names?" "Matthew." Grace's voice was sharp now, mask cracking. "Get Rachel. We're leaving now." "No." Matthew's voice was quiet but firm. "I want to hear this." Grace spun to face him. "Are you serious? Your mother is delusional." "Is she?" Matthew held up the article with shaking hands. "Because this looks like you. This sounds like what's happening here." "You stupid—" Grace caught herself, but the venom had already leaked through. She took a breath, forced a smile. "Honey, I can explain." "Then explain," I said. "Explain the life insurance policy you had Matthew forge with my signature. $750,000 paid to him when I die. Explain the healthcare proxy I never actually agreed to. Explain why you insisted on cooking dinner tonight. Explain—" I gestured to my plate. "What you put in those potatoes." Matthew looked at the mashed potatoes, then at Grace. "What did you put in them?" "Nothing, she's paranoid." "What did you put in them?" His voice cracked. "What did you make me put in her tea last week?" That's when I heard its soft footsteps on the stairs. Victoria Hayes stepped into the dining room, FBI credentials in hand. "Grace Porter, she said calmly. Or should I say Melissa Grant, or Lisa Brennan? I'm Victoria Hayes' private investigator. And everything you've said and done in this house for the past 40 minutes has been recorded on video and audio. Grace's head whipped around. She saw Victoria. Saw the cameras now that she knew to look. The tiny lenses were obvious. Her face transformed. The sweet smile vanished. What replaced it was cold, calculating, predatory. You set me up, she said to me. You stupid old bitch, you actually set me up. I protected myself, I replied. Like Patricia Sullivan's daughter tried to protect her, like David Sullivan should have. Grace laughed a harsh, ugly sound. David was weak, just like Matthew, just like all of them. Pathetic men with secrets they're terrified of losing. That's enough. Matthew stood, his face streaked with tears. It's over, Grace. Over? She turned on him like a snake. It's over when I say it's over. You think you can just walk away? I have evidence of your theft. I have documents proving you forged your mother's signature. You're as guilty as I am. If I go down, you go down with me. Then I go down. Matthew's voice was steady now, despite the tears. I'm not letting you hurt my mother. Grace stared at him, disbelief warring with rage on her face. You don't have the balls. Actually, he does, Victoria said. And Grace? We've reopened the Patricia Sullivan case, the Lisa Brennan case too. Seattle PD and Nevada State Police are very interested in talking to you. Detective Kim is outside right now with a warrant for your arrest. Grace's eyes darted to the window, to the door, calculating escape routes. Then she lunged, not at me, at Rachel. She grabbed my granddaughter, pulled her out of her chair, held her in front of her body like a shield. Nobody moves. Grace's voice was high panicked. I'll hurt her. I swear to God I'll hurt her. Rachel whimpered, terrified. Grace, Matthew's voice shook. Let her go. She's your daughter. She's a means to an end. She always has been. You think I wanted a kid? I needed one. Sympathy. The perfect family image. She backed toward the kitchen, dragging Rachel with her. Now everyone stays back, or... She didn't finish the sentence. Because Matthew tackled her. My son, weak, broken Matthew, launched himself at his wife with a roar of rage and desperation. They crashed into the kitchen counter. Rachel tumbled free and I grabbed her, pulling her behind me. Victoria was already moving, pulling Grace's arms behind her back, snapping on handcuffs with practiced efficiency. Grace Porter, you're under arrest for attempted murder, fraud, conspiracy to commit murder. Get off me! Grace writhed, screaming. Matthew, tell them it was your idea, tell them. Matthew sat on the floor, breathing hard, looking at his hands like they belonged to someone else. That's when the front door burst open. Detective Sarah Kim rushed in, 3 uniformed officers behind her. Portland Police. Nobody move. All clear, Detective, Victoria said. Suspect in custody. Sarah Kim approached Grace, read her the Miranda rights, while Grace screamed obscenities, threats, promises of revenge. You won't get away with this. I'll appeal. I'll get the best lawyers. You'll die alone anyway, Amanda. Old and forgotten and alone. They dragged her toward the door. She twisted back one last time. I always get out Seattle, Nevada. I always get out them. Not this time, Detective Kim said quietly. We have everything. The videos, the audio, the toxicology on the tea from last week, and testimony from Patricia Sullivan's family. You're not getting out. As they took her away, Grace's screams echoed through my house, then faded as the police car drove off. The silence that followed was deafening. Matthew sat on my kitchen floor, head in his hands, sobbing. Rachel clung to me, shaking. Victoria stood by the window, speaking quietly into her phone with prosecutors. I knelt down next to my son. Matthew, he looked up, eyes red and swollen. Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I know. I didn't want to hurt you. I swear I didn't. But she had evidence. The drugs I stole. She said she'd send me to prison. I'd lose Rachel. I'd lose everything. I was scared. I know, I said again. Detective Kim approached us. Mr. Porter, I need you to come with me. You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud and as an accessory to attempted murder. Matthew nodded, not resisting, as she helped him to his feet and read him his rights. Can I? His voice broke. Can I say goodbye to Rachel? Sarah Kim nodded. Matthew knelt down in front of his daughter. She looked at him with confused, frightened eyes. Daddy's going away for a while, baby. I did bad things. Very bad things. But you stopped Mommy, Rachel whispered. You saved Grandma. I should have stopped her sooner. A long time ago. Tears streamed down his face. I'm sorry I wasn't braver. I'm sorry I was weak. You were brave at the end, I said quietly. That has to count for something. He looked at me. Will you take care of her? Yes, always. And will you tell her I'm not a monster? I thought about that question, about truth and mercy, about what we owe our children and what they owe us. I'll tell her you made terrible mistakes, but I'll also tell her that when it mattered most, you chose to protect the people you loved. That's the truth. They led him away in handcuffs. Rachel and I stood in the doorway watching the police cars disappear into the autumn evening. My granddaughter looked up at me. Grandma, are we going to be okay? I picked her up. She was getting too big for this, but I did it anyway and held her close. Yes, sweetheart, we're going to be okay. Behind us, Victoria was already dismantling the cameras, packing up equipment. James called to check on me. Ruth called demanding to know what happened. But for that moment, I just held my granddaughter and breathed. We had survived. Grace was in custody. Matthew had been arrested. My family was broken. But Rachel and I were alive. And sometimes survival is its own kind of victory.